the house that lives to lives. The Jameson family home at 1247 Maple Street in Salem, Oregon exists in two different worlds at the same time, most of the time. It's a regular neighborhood house where the current owners, Mark and Linda Jameson, live with their teenage children. But on random nights during the year, the house switches into another world where the previous owners, the Morrison family, who died in a car crash in 1987, are still alive and doing their everyday activities as if they never left. The world switching was first written down in 2003 when neighbors began reporting lights and movement in the Jameson house during times when the family was away from home. Police checks found the house empty but warm with signs of recent cooking. Television programs still playing in beds that looked like they had been slept in by people who weren't there. Security cameras put up by the confused homeowners caught something impossible. Video of the Morrison family, Robert, Susan, and their twin daughters moving through rooms, making meals, and living their lives in a house they had left 16 years earlier. The cameras showed both families existing in the same space but clearly unable to see or talk with each other. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a scientist who studies tiny particles from Oregon State University, studied what was happening and wrote down what she called world bleeding periods, when the house exists at the same time in multiple worlds. During these times, which last between 4 and 18 hours, the Morrison family continues their lives as if 1987 never ended, while the Jameson family feels strange temperature changes, electronic problems, and the clear feeling of being watched by invisible people. The most creepy proof came when researchers discovered that the Morrison family was getting older normally in their world. Recent video shows Robert and Susan Morrison as they would look today if they had lived, including gray hair and age-matching clothing. Their twin daughters have grown into adults and sometimes bring children of their own to visit their otherworld grandparents. Outside proof came from comparing the security video to family photographs given by Morrison relatives. The people in the world bleeding times matched perfectly with how the dead family members would look today, showing that their other existence had continued, without stopping in a different timeline where the deadly car accident never happened. The world overlap isn't just things you can see. Audio recordings catch conversations in which the Morrison family talks about current events using information they shouldn't have in 1987. They mention smartphones, social media, and political events that happened many years after their death, showing that their other world receives information from our timeline. House records showed that similar world bleeding events have been reported at other houses where families died suddenly. What happens appears to occur when terrible events create world scars that allow other realities to bleed through, showing us quick looks at what might have been if tragedy hadn't stepped in. The Jameson house represents written proof that other worlds exist alongside our own, and that under certain conditions, the walls between realities become thin enough for different versions of our lives to leak through into our awareness. The Future Echo Forest. Deep in the Olympic National Forest in Washington state lies a hiking trail where worlds have become time unstable, allowing visitors to meet future versions of themselves and see events that haven't happened yet. What happens, written down by the Park Service since 1994, has created a zone where straight time breaks down and multiple timelines come together. Rangers first became aware of the strange event when hikers began reporting meetings with themselves from tomorrow, meeting their own future selves, walking the same trail, while wearing different clothes and showing knowledge of events that hadn't yet happened. These weren't dreams or fake images. The future selves were solid, could interact, and able to give specific information about the near future. Dr. Michael Chen was hiking the trail in August 2008 when he met his future self returning from the top. The future Chen warned him about a rock slide that would happen 3 hours later at a specific location on the trail. Following his future self's advice, Dr. Chen took a different route and later confirmed that a rock slide had blocked the original path at exactly the predicted time. Park Ranger Jennifer Walsh wrote down over 200 similar incidents where hikers received warnings, advice, or information from future versions of themselves. The meetings typically lasted 10 to 15 minutes and happened at specific locations along the trail where electromagnetic readings show unusual world shape. The most amazing case involved photographer Lisa Rodriguez, who met not just her future self, but an entire group of people she hadn't met yet. Her future self introduced her to individuals who would become her hiking friends on a trip planned for the following year. 6 months later, Rodriguez joined a hiking club and met all the people her future self had introduced her to, exactly as predicted. Scientific studies showed that the time-strange events follow a regular pattern. Future meetings occur at exact GPS coordinates where ground surveys show unusual crystal formations in the bedrock. These natural crystal structures appear to create a vibration effect that makes local space and time shaky, allowing different time states to exist together. The future echo effect isn't just human meetings. Hikers report seeing future versions of the forest itself, trails that don't exist yet, new ranger stations being built, and even future storm damage that later occurs exactly as seen. The world leakage appears to show the most likely future timeline for the area. Dr. Sarah Kim's time Research team found that information gathered from future meetings has a 94% accuracy rate when checked after the predicted events occur. The future selves provide detailed specific information that proves they're real and shows that multiple timeline states can exist at the same time. The Olympic Forest Future Echo Zone represents strong proof that time isn't straight and that future world states can leak backwards into present experience, allowing us to literally meet ourselves from tomorrow and receive information from timelines that haven't unfolded yet. The medieval overlay. Several city blocks in downtown Prague experience regular world shifts where the modern city is replaced by its exact medieval counterpart from the 14th century. During these times, which last between 30 minutes and several hours, visitors find themselves in a fully working medieval town, complete with period-matching people, buildings, and technology. The world overlay was first written down in 1995, when tourist Margaret Fleming entered what she thought was a historical acting area, only to discover that the medieval environment was completely real. The cobblestone streets were real stone, the buildings showed real wear from centuries of use, and the people spoke Middle Czech and appeared truly unaware that they were living in the past. Security cameras positioned around the affected area catch the change as it happens. Modern buildings fade away like dissolving photographs while medieval structures appear in their place. The change follows a specific pattern beginning at the old town square and expanding outward in growing circles until about 4 city blocks exist in the 14th century. Dr. Pavel Novak, a history expert from Charles University, has written down long interactions with the medieval people during world overlay events. The people are not actors or pretenders. They have detailed knowledge of 14th century life, speak real period language styles, and react with real confusion when shown modern objects or ideas. The medieval world includes working shops, taverns, and workshops where period-matching goods are made using real techniques and materials. Visitors can buy items made by medieval craftspeople, and chemical testing confirms that these objects were created using period-matching materials and methods that haven't been used for centuries. The most remarkable part of the medieval overlay is its historical correctness. Building experts confirm that the buildings match exactly with 14th century Prague as written down in historical records. Even the population matches census data from that time, with people whose names and jobs match archived city records from the 1300s. During overlay events, modern technology stops working within the affected area. Cell phones, digital cameras, and electronic devices become unable to work while the medieval environment works according to its own physical laws. Visitors report feeling like they've literally traveled back in time rather than visiting another world. The world shifts occur without warning, typically during cloudy weather conditions when electromagnetic activity in the area reaches specific level points. Weather data shows connection between world overlay events and air conditions that mirror historical weather patterns from the medieval period. The Prague medieval overlay provides written proof that other world versions of historical periods can bleed through into present reality, suggesting that all moments in time might exist at the same time and become reachable when world barriers weaken. The duplicate city residents of Duluth, Minnesota occasionally wake up to find their city replaced by a different version where key historical events unfolded differently. This other Duluth exists in a world where the 1918 Cloquet fire never occurred, resulting in a dramatically different city layout with buildings, the streets, and landmarks that don't exist in our timeline. The world replacement was first noticed in 2001, when longtime resident Frank Morrison went to visit his childhood neighborhood and found streets that had been destroyed in the 1918 fire were not only intact, but showed continuous living for over a century. The buildings displayed building changes and aging that would have occurred if they had never been destroyed. During these world times, Duluth exists at the same time in two realities. Visitors can walk down streets that were destroyed many years ago, enter buildings that never survived the historical fire, and meet other versions of residents whose families took different paths in the other timeline where the disaster never occurred. Dr. Rebecca Foster, a city planner from the University of Minnesota, mapped the differences between the two versions of Duluth and found that the other city contains over 300 buildings that don't exist in our reality. The other world shows how the city would have developed without the dramatic disruption of the massive fire that reshaped its growth pattern. The other Duluth isn't just structurally different. Its people have lived completely different lives. Families that died in the fire in our timeline are alive and doing well in the other world. Businesses that were destroyed have continued working for over a century, showing natural change and growth that would have occurred without the historical disaster. Photographs taken during world replacement events show the same physical locations, displaying entirely different buildings and development patterns. The other city appears more successful and more populated, suggesting that avoiding the historical disaster led to faster economic growth and city development. The most creepy part of the duplicate city event is that both versions feel equally real and solid to visitors. People can interact normally with people of the other Duluth, buy goods from businesses that don't exist in our timeline, and even stay overnight in hotels that were destroyed in our reality's 1918 fire. Historical research confirmed that the other world shows exact accuracy in its different development. City planners have checked that the other city's growth patterns match exactly what building experts predicted. Duluth would have looked like without the fire's devastating impact. The duplicate city times typically last 12 to 36 hours before reality shifts back to our familiar version of Duluth. However, visitors sometimes return with objects bought in the other world, items that continue to exist in our reality even after the world replacement ends. The backwoods physics zone. In a remote section of Montana's Glacier National Park, hikers meet an area where the basic laws of physics operate in reverse, suggesting that a world with opposite physical properties has leaked into our reality. Water flows upward, objects fall toward the sky, and fire freezes while ice burns in a zone where cause and effect have been flipped. Park ranger Tom Bradley first wrote down the backwards physics event in 2006 when he watched a stream flowing uphill in a steady, regular manner that broke gravity. Early checks showed that the strange event affected a roughly circular area with a width of about 200 meters where normal physical laws were replaced by their exact opposites. Within the reversed physics zone, dropped objects speed upward at the same rate they would normally fall downward. Visitors must secure themselves to prevent floating away into the sky, while rocks and debris drift upward in perfect reverse of normal gravity behavior. The effect is exact and regular, suggesting that gravity force hasn't disappeared, but has been flipped. Dr. Lisa Chang, a scientist who studies theory from MIT, did extensive testing within the strange event and found that all basic forces operate in reverse. Electromagnetic fields push away rather than pull together. Heat energy flows from cold to hot objects, and even time feeling becomes distorted as cause and effect relationships flip. The most amazing discovery was that disorder decreases within the backwards physics zone. Broken objects fix themselves on their own. Mixed substances separate into parts, and complex systems become more organized over time rather than breaking down. The area appears to be controlled by physical laws from a universe where the arrow of time points in the opposite direction. Outside checking by multiple research teams confirmed that the reversed physics effects are real and measurable. Water regularly flows upward, fire makes cold instead of heat, and batteries push energy back into themselves, while electrical devices run backwards to their previous states. The edges of the backwards physics zone are sharply marked with normal physics, starting again immediately outside the affected area. Visitors can experience the change by extending their arm across the edge, feeling normal gravity on one hand, while the other experiences reverse gravity force. Military and space researchers have shown strong interest in the backwards physics zone for its possible uses in movement and energy systems. However, the strange event appears to be growing slowly, increasing about 1 meter per year in all directions. Local native tribal elders report that their ancestors were aware of the area and considered it a gateway to the upside-down world, where all natural laws were reversed. Their spoken traditions describe the zone as a place where spirits from an opposite reality could enter our world. The backwards physics zone represents written proof that worlds with flipped physical laws can overlap with our reality, creating pockets where the basic forces that control our universe operate according to completely different rules. The probability leak. In the small town of Millfield, Ohio, residents experience random probability distortions where highly unlikely events become common while normal everyday happenings become impossible. During these times, which locals call luck storms, the basic laws of chance break down as probability patterns from another world bleed into our reality. What happens was first scientifically written down in 2004, when statistics expert Dr. Robert Kim investigated reports of impossible coincidences happening with supernatural frequency. During a single week, 17 residents won various lottery prizes, 3 people found lost family members after many years of separation, and 5 couples met their future spouses in unlikely situations that broke statistical analysis. Probability distortions in Millfield follow opposite patterns, where rare events occur multiple times while common events become extraordinarily unlikely. During peak probability storms, residents report that their car keys regularly appear in impossible locations. Traffic lights break down in synchronized patterns, and random events cluster in ways that break the laws of statistical spreading. Dr. Kim's research team wrote down probability patterns that shouldn't exist in normal reality. Coin flips during distortion events produced heads or tails in sequences that match complex math patterns rather than random spreading. Card shuffles result in mathematically perfect arrangements, and dice regularly roll numbers that match important dates or personal information. The most amazing part of Millfield's probability leaks is their predictive nature. Unlikely events that occur during storms often hint at future developments that later unfold exactly as suggested. By the starting unlikely coincidences, residents learn to read probability distortions as glimpses of other timelines where different choices and chances create different outcomes. Medical researcher Dr. Sarah Wilson found that during probability storms, genetic mutations occur at rates 10,000 times higher than normal, but these mutations are regularly helpful rather than harmful. People develop improved abilities, long-term conditions fix themselves on their own, and DNA repairs itself in ways that break biological probability. The probability distortions appear to come from world overlap with a reality where chance works according to different math rules. In the other world, unlikely events have high probability while routine happenings are rare, creating an opposite probability universe that occasionally bleeds through into our timeline. Weather watching equipment shows connection between probability storms and specific air conditions involving electromagnetic field changes that occur in patterns matching advanced math sequences. The distortions get stronger during periods when local magnetic fields line up with geometric shapes that appear to thin world barriers. Millfield residents have learned to move through probability storms by understanding that during these events, following hunches and gut feelings leads to positive outcomes, while logical planning produces unexpected obstacles. The town has become a natural laboratory for studying how other probability worlds can influence random events in our reality. The living architecture buildings in downtown Seattle occasionally transform into biological creatures with nervous systems, circulatory systems, and clear consciousness, suggesting that a world where buildings are alive has begun merging with our reality. During these times, structures breathe, react to touch, and communicate with people through changes in temperature, lighting, and sound properties. What happens was first written down in 2010, when maintenance workers at the Columbia Center noticed that the building's heating and cooling system was responding to human emotions, rather than programmed settings. Security videos showed walls that appeared to pulse rhythm, elevator cars that moved according to passengers' unspoken destinations, and lighting systems that adjusted automatically to create best psychological environments. Dr. Amanda Forster, a biomechanical engineer from the University of Washington, investigated the living building event and found that affected buildings display characteristics of biological creatures. Heat imaging shows circulation patterns looking like heart and blood vessel systems. Sound watching detects rhythmic sounds similar to heartbeats and electromagnetic sensors. Record brain activity patterns within the structural frameworks. The biological change appears complete rather than surface level. Structural analysis shows that steel and concrete parts have developed cell properties while keeping their building strength. Building materials show signs of metabolism, growth, and self-repair that work through ways that don't exist in regular construction materials. During active phases, the living buildings show clear intelligence and emotional responses. They adjust internal environments to make things best for specific individuals, respond to spoken requests for temperature or lighting changes, and appear to learn occupants' preferences over time. Some buildings show signs of mood changes, becoming grumpy during bad weather or excited during celebrations. Outside checking came from multiple engineering companies that confirmed the biological change of building materials. Steel beams show cell structures that pulse with nutritional transport. Concrete walls display brain networks that carry electrical signals, and glass surfaces show properties of permeable membranes that control environmental exchange. The most remarkable part of living buildings is its improved functionality. Biological buildings require less energy, keep best environmental conditions automatically, and show self-healing properties that repair structural damage without human help. They appear to be more efficient and sustainable than regular buildings. Communication with the living buildings occurs through body feedback rather than traditional controls. Occupants report sensing the building's mood and being able to influence its behavior through focused intention and emotional states. The structures appear to develop relationships with regular people, responding more favorably to familiar people. The building change appears to be spreading slowly through downtown Seattle with nearby buildings, gradually developing biological properties through contact with already transformed structures. What happens suggests that an entire world where organic buildings are normal may be gradually merging with our reality. The Emotion Physics Laboratory at the Stanford Research Institute. Scientists discovered a laboratory where emotions directly affect physical reality, suggesting world bleed through from a universe where consciousness and matter interact according to different physical laws. In this contaminated space, human feelings can change temperature, control gravity, and even change the atomic structure of materials. The emotion physics interaction was first noticed in 2007 when researcher Dr. Patricia Wang found that her experiment results varied dramatically depending on her emotional state while doing experiments. Further investigation showed that the entire laboratory had become a zone where psychological conditions directly influence physical events in measurable ways. Within the affected laboratory, negative emotions regularly produce specific physical effects. Anger increases local temperature and electromagnetic field strength. Sadness causes objects to become heavier and fall faster, and fear creates electrical interference that disrupts sensitive equipment. Positive emotions produce opposite effects, with joy decreasing gravity and love increasing the clarity of laser beams. Dr. Wang's team wrote down over 2,000 experiments confirming that emotional states can be measured through their direct physical signs. Special instruments detect emotional fields that extend several meters from individuals and can be mapped with the same exactness as electromagnetic events. The emotional fields appear to work as a fifth basic force that controls matter behavior in the contaminated space. The most amazing discovery was that groups of people can combine their emotional states to create powerful collective effects. Teams experiencing synchronized emotions can levitate objects, change the rate of radioactive decay, and even influence the probability of quantum measurement outcomes. The laboratory has become a natural testing ground for consciousness-based physics. Outside checking by multiple research institutions confirm that the emotion physics effects are real, measurable, and regular. What happens appears to result from world overlap with a reality where consciousness is a basic force that directly it shapes material reality rather than coming from complex brain activity. Medical watching shows that people working in the emotion physics laboratory develop improved sensitivity to others' emotional states and show improved ability to control their own psychological conditions. Extended exposure appears to create permanent changes in brain processing that continue even outside the affected area. The emotional effects are strongest in areas where intense psychological research has been done, suggesting that concentrated mental activity may thin the barriers between worlds, where different mind-matter interaction laws apply. The laboratory has become a gateway between realities with basically different relationships between consciousness and physics. Security rules require emotional stability, watching for all personnel as extreme. Psychological states can create dangerous physical effects including spontaneous combustion, localized gravity strange events, and electromagnetic pulses that damage sensitive equipment throughout the facility. The time dilation neighborhood. Residents of Maplewood Drive in suburban Denver experience random time-stretching events where different houses exist in sped-up or slowed-down time fields, suggesting world overlap with realities where time flows at different rates. During these times, families aging at dramatically different speeds live next door to each other in the same physical space. The time-strange event was first written down in 2012, when neighbors noticed that the Johnson family appeared to be aging rapidly, while the Miller family seemed frozen in time. Over the course of what felt like several months to outside watchers, the Johnsons aged about 5 years, while the Millers experienced only a few days of felt time. Dr. Angela Rodriguez, a time physicist from the University of Colorado, set up watching stations throughout the neighborhood and confirmed that different properties experienced time at measurably different rates. Some houses exist in sped-up time fields where minutes pass like hours, while others slow time to near stop, where days feel like minutes. The time-stretching effects are strongest during specific weather conditions when air pressure and electromagnetic activity reach level points that appear to make local time consistency shaky. Weather data shows connection between time, strange events, and storm systems that create electromagnetic field patterns looking like those predicted for world boundaries. Residents affected by time stretching report that life continues normally within their time field, but interaction with neighbors becomes increasingly difficult as time difference increases. Conversations become impossible when one family experiences minutes while another experiences hours during the same interaction period. Medical examination, which shows that sped-up aging during fast time times involves normal biological processes happening at increased rates rather than disease deterioration. People in fast time zones require more frequent meals and sleep but keep normal health within their time reference frame. The most disturbing part of the time-stretching neighborhood is that families can become time-isolated from each other even while living side by side. Children in slow time zones watch their friends in normal time zones grow up and graduate while they experience only days or weeks of felt time. Property values in the Maplewood Drive area have become impossible to establish since houses exist in different time markets. Real estate agents report that some properties age many years while others remain forever new, creating a neighborhood where time itself has become a variable rather than a constant. Emergency services face unique challenges responding to calls in the time-stretching zone as paramedics and fire departments must account for time difference when providing help. Response times become meaningless when houses exist in different time reference frames. The consciousness mirror dimension. In a research facility at UC Berkeley, scientists discovered a room where human thoughts become visible as physical forms, suggesting world bleed-through from a reality where consciousness and matter exists in perfect symmetry. Within this space, mental processes appear as touchable objects that can be watched, measured, and even physically handled. The consciousness-showing event was first noticed in 2015 when brain scientist Dr. Michael Chen watched that his thoughts were appearing as see-through geometric shapes floating in the air around him. Early attempts to dismiss the experience as fake image were abandoned when multiple researchers confirmed they could see identical thought forms appearing during controlled experiments. Within the affected laboratory, different types of thoughts show as distinct visual and physical events. Analytical thinking appears as crystalline structures with sharp geometric patterns. Creative thoughts show as flowing organic shapes with shifting colors, and emotional states create atmospheric, the effects that influence temperature and lighting. Throughout the space, Dr. Chen's research team found that the thought showings aren't just visual, they have measurable physical properties, including mass, electromagnetic signatures, and the ability to interact with material objects. Complex thoughts can form structures solid enough to support small objects or influence the behavior of sensitive electronic equipment. The most remarkable discovery was that multiple people's thoughts can combine to create collective showings that are more complex and stable than individual thought forms. When research teams focus on shared concepts, their combined mental energy creates continuing structures that remain visible and interactive for hours after the original thoughts occurred. Outside checking by consciousness researchers from multiple institutions confirmed that the thought-showing effects are real and follow regular patterns. Math thoughts create exact geometric forms, while abstract concepts produce more fluid showings that change shape according to the thinker's understanding and emotional relationship to the ideas. The consciousness mirror room appears to exist at the intersection of multiple worlds where different mind-matter interaction rules apply. Brain imaging shows that people working in the space develop improved brain connectivity and show improved ability to visualize complex concepts even outside the affected area. The room has become a natural laboratory for studying the relationship between consciousness and reality, providing direct visual proof that thoughts have measurable physical properties in certain world conditions. The research has meanings for understanding how consciousness might shape reality in ways that regular physics doesn't recognize. Security rules require mental disciplines training for all personnel, as negative or chaotic thoughts can create possibly dangerous showings, including sharp crystalline structures, toxic atmospheric effects, and electromagnetic interference that damages sensitive research equipment throughout the facility.
These 10 written-down cases of world leakage represent more than unexplained strange events. They are proof that our reality isn't as stable or isolated as we assume. From houses that exist in multiple timelines at the same time to forests where we can meet our future selves, these incidents prove that the boundaries between other worlds are far more thin than science admits. What unites these amazing events isn't just their impossibility, but their regularity. They follow patterns that suggest our universe exists alongside countless other realities with different physical laws, different histories, and different relationships between consciousness and matter. When these world barriers weaken, we get glimpses of worlds where time flows backwards, where thoughts become solid objects, and where probability itself works according to different math rules. Perhaps most creepy is what these world leaks reveal about the nature of reality itself. They suggest that our universe isn't a closed system, but part of an infinite multiverse where every possible variation of existence plays out at the same time. The medieval Prague that occasionally replaces the modern city shows us a timeline where history unfolded differently. The backwards physics zone shows that universes with flipped natural laws exist alongside our own. The increasing frequency of these world incidents raises disturbing questions about the stability of our reality. Are the barriers between worlds weakening? Are we seeing the early stages of a world coming together where multiple realities begin to merge? Or have these leaks always occurred and we're only now developing the tools and awareness to recognize them? These 10 cases prove that other worlds aren't theory ideas, but observable realities that occasionally bleed through into our awareness. They suggest that everything we think we know about the uniqueness and permanence of our universe is basically wrong. We're not living in a single isolated reality, but in one strand of an infinite web of interconnected worlds where every possibility exists at the same time. The proof is clear. Our world is leaking. Other realities are bleeding through. And the solid, predictable universe we thought we lived in is far stranger, more fluid, and more thin than we ever imagined. The question isn't whether other worlds exist. It's how many of them we're already living in without realizing it.